All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. It is great to be with you. Wow. It's the new America where presidents are pulling back from the re-election campaigns and turning the wheel over to their vice president, where the Oppo research has already been done, and now it's just a question of dusting it off and bringing it out. We've just redone our levels here. Tony, does my levels sound okay to you? Yes?
They sound good on my end.
Yeah.
All right.
See
Okay.
what the chat has to say.
Right.
The chat, let me know.
Tony did supervise the levels. Hopefully it is good where you are listening or taking in this content. Kim is here.
Kim, how are you?
And we have another great day ahead. In fact, Tuesday's the day that many of us look forward to talking to David Cay Johnston, the Pultzer Prize winner. He'll be along, I think, in the second hour. We tried to get him to come into the first hour because the first hour I'll be here. Second hour I've got to do KFI in Los Angeles. So, but we'll have a show as we always do every day live. 2 hours right here, baby. Much to do. In fact, I have some juicy stuff for you today out of the world of the GOP. I will share some of their planned strategies and tactics for taking down Kamala the Mamala. Meantime, you had, speaking of taken down, the head of the Secret Service resigning today, just hours ago. Kind of had no option on that.
No.
Probably should have resigned before you had to testify before the committee. Would have saved yourself a lot of the yelling and calling you. I mean, it's not your daddy's Congress anymore, okay? It's definitely a more brutal group. And so they went at her. And, you know, she deserved, I think, to have both sides of the aisle go after her. And, yeah.
Put that coffee down.
Yeah, they were tough on her.
Well,
right, Kim?
She was okay, maybe, but she went in there with a chip on her shoulder and belligerent. She should have known, listen, the job is all but lost. So I might as well just cooperate and answer everything and be truthful and say, you know, how ridiculous the question is. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to do the best I can to answer it instead of trying to do the political spin. She's done. And she should have known she was done when she walked in.
Well, her name's Kimberly Cheadle, again, just to remind everybody. I didn't honestly see a lot of the chip on the shoulder part. What did she say or what did she do that might have been?
Democrats were asking her, hey, does the proliferation of AK-47s make your job harder?
Oh, right.
She should have just said, obviously, well, sure. Any weapon is going to make my job more difficult. If people are armed, it means my people are at risk. Done. Right. Easy question. Or she maybe should have said, well, if you would restrict weapons, my job would be much more easy, or whatever had happened. She wouldn't give them a straight answer. And so back and forth it went on to the next congressperson who finally said, listen, I was going to ask you if rocket-propelled grenades would make your job harder. She just would not answer the question. So she was a little bit, I don't know, she was touchy. She was touchy and she was defensive, and she shouldn't have been because it was such a grievous mistake on many levels that was made. So
yeah, I mean,
it was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
She could have used a Tubin apology, although I don't think you can apologize your way out of this. I mean, sadly, all roads really led to resignation. Right. You're the director of the Secret Service. The former president, who has Secret Service protection, almost was successfully assassinated. You kind of have to own that. Sadly, maybe it isn't your fault. I mean, I'm sure everything's happening below you from an administrative standpoint, but part of the game is you got to own it. And so, although it's not, you know, in the new America, it's I take full responsibility, but it's so-and-so's fault. You know what I mean? That's the new America. No one resigns
that's
anymore.
The ugly America, because the right way to do it is, this is what I'm teaching my kids. When you make a mistake, you admit it. You don't try to lie about it. You don't try to blame someone else. You don't try to shuffle responsibility elsewhere. You own it.
Yeah, the question about
that's what a good person does. And she was, she did apologize at the very beginning, but she didn't go out in a way that made you like her in the end.
Natalie says she was trying too hard to not go into ideological territory, but did not do it in a skilled way.
Yeah.
She got away with deleting all of the communications after the insurrection, though. It is interesting. That is a very good point, Quesadilla. That didn't come up. It's not her fault, says Just Give Me the Truth. So we get a new, inexperienced Secret Service head and nothing changes. Well, I mean, I don't know if the second part of that is true. I mean, you just tacked that on there. We get a new, inexperienced and nothing changes. You just added that. Look, as I said, I think there are no choices but to, sadly, step down. So, hey, good news is you got good company. It was a week in which a lot of people were stepping down. Most of them look up to Joe Biden, who did the big step down. So don't sweat it,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. She wrote in her resignation letter, the scrutiny over the last week has been intense and will continue to remain as our operational tempo increases. She said that she takes full responsibility for the security lapse. In light of recent events, it is with a heavy heart that I have made the difficult decision to step down as your director. Not clear when her last day will be, what her last day will be. Meantime, on the other side of town,
The Mark Thompson Show.
There are a couple of things that I sent to you, Tony. I sent a few things. I like to get these. I send these things in the very early morning or late at night. Always working on the show, in those periods. And so I kind of forget exactly what I've sent. So, Tony, refresh me. Don't I have a chunk of Trump here waiting to go?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, let's start. We'll check in with America's favorite old guy running for president. Now that Joe Biden is no longer America's favorite old guy running for president, this is a chunk of Trump.
Open wide. Ready? Here comes your chunk of Trump.
It's my favorite food.
With your first bite, here's Mark Thompson.
I have a feeling it's going to be beautiful.
So much fun. The guy's done it once, Trump has. He's been president. Wants to do it again. Wants to get in there and do it the first time, only better this time. More loyalists. Go ahead, Tony. Play one of the whatever I sent you. Is this the Miles Taylor thing? Yeah, this is Miles Taylor, who worked with Trump in the Trump administration.
An idiot. He's just an idiot. When Donald Trump was president, I remember crossing that threshold into the Oval Office. And not only was this guy not bringing his A game, he didn't have a game. He was winging it.
Miles Taylor and his Homeland Security Secretary, Kirstjen Nielsen, worked for former President Trump in his administration. Trump once called Secretary Nielsen with a unique solution to stop migrants crossing the border with Mexico.
And she puts the president on speakerphone, and he says that down at the border, he wants to explore what it would take to build a moat. And he goes off on this tangent talking about how we should actually get snakes and alligators and fill this 2,000-mile moat on the border with reptilian creatures so that if someone falls into the moat, they're facing the threat of snakes and alligators. I mean, we're just laughing. You can't make this shit up.
What are you thinking when the President of the United States is enunciating this idea?
I'm a lifelong conservative. I am more Republican than Donald Trump. He is not a conservative. But putting politics aside, engaging with the man, you realize he's an idiot.
Trump has denied knowing Taylor and said he should be prosecuted.
Yeah, there you go.
Prosecuted for disagreeing, huh? All right.
Yeah, put him on the list. When I get back in, put that Miles Taylor guy on the list. Gators are the answer. Exactly, says Julie. I had one other Trump item, didn't I, Tony? This is Nikki Haley talking about, on the stump, the notion that Donald Trump would become the candidate on the Republican ticket. Go ahead, Tony.
Let's speak some hard truths. If Donald Trump becomes the Republican nominee, we will get a President Kamala Harris. You mark my words. He cannot win a general election. Look at Iowa, look at New Hampshire. He can't get independents. He can't get suburban women. He's losing Republicans who say they don't want him and will vote for someone else. It's a problem. Let's speak some hard truths.
All right. So basically she's saying and reminding us that suburban women are important. I think that is an overplayed element in the election, although it's clearly important. I do think women generally have a voice that needs to be heard, especially as their reproductive rights are being taken away. So they may figure into this election, but polling would suggest that that whole suburban women thing may be overdone. But
as a suburban woman, I say right on.
Yeah. Carl Perkins says Nikki Haley on January 23rd said the first party to retire the old candidate is going to be the party to win the election. Wow. Is that what she said, Carl? Well, that's the prediction. I'll also mention this, as long as we're doing chunk of Trump. The backers of the GOP, generally speaking anyway, the Wall Street Journal, they write this: the 2024 election is Donald Trump's to lose, and he may yet manage to lose it. That was our reaction to his outburst on Sunday after President Biden's withdrawal from the presidential race. It should have been an opportunity to show some class and judgment by welcoming the decision, they say, warning U.S. adversaries not to take advantage of Mr. Biden's last few months in office, and saying that Vice President Kamala Harris will have to defend Mr. Biden's failed record. So you could have said those things, is what the Wall Street Journal is saying. But that is not, of course, what happened. He went to Truth Social on Sunday after the announcement, and the former president posted, "Crooked Joe Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve, and never was!" exclamation point. He only attained the position of president by lies, fake news, and not leaving his basement. All those around him, including his doctor and the media, knew that he wasn't capable of being president, and he wasn't. And now look at what he's done to our country. They continue in the Wall Street Journal, "We realize Mr. Trump is frustrated that he won't be able to run against Mr. Biden, but he remains the favorite and has a strong case to make against the Biden-Harris record." Again, this is the Wall Street Journal, so they have a very pro-right-wing general bent. "The GOP convention was a political success despite his self-indulgent Thursday speech. The biggest doubters have about Mr. Trump, the biggest doubt, I should say, that voters have about Mr. Trump is that he is a divisive, vindictive man who is unable to speak for all Americans." I'll ding divisive, yeah.
Not vindictive?
All right, vindictive.
Okay.
And so they say he had a chance on Sunday to show that he is capable of more than divisiveness and vindictiveness, and he didn't rise to the occasion. And that's your chunk of Trump.
That's it for this edition.
Well, I really enjoyed it.
But make sure to join us again next time
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening.
for another chunk of Trump.
Meantime, on the other side of town, I will tell you that here at
The Mark Thompson Show.
here at the mothership of the Mark Thompson Show, which is always open to your comments and to your emails. The email, maybe put the email address up there. It's the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. It's pretty easy to remember, but you got to put the in there, the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. So
I've received a lot of positive letters.
I do get comments and email. This is in the comments category. I told you, I always read your comments in YouTube after hours because there's always something maybe to respond to, or it indicates something that we may want to follow up on, whatever. So there was this comment in After Hours Trading. "The jacket, Mark, has to go. You need a new look. How about V-neck sweaters?"
You love the jacket.
I love
V-neck
this
sweaters
jacket.
Will make you look like Mr. Rogers. You can't do the V-neck sweaters.
I think the V-neck sweaters not going to happen. But I understand the frustration with the jacket. I really didn't want to be burdened. I didn't want to be burdened with, a bunch of stuff that's cosmetically related. Oh, and we did this. We brought the radio show over to YouTube. So I just tried to make things as basic as possible and just kept wearing the jacket.
I think the jacket has a little bit of swagger. It's kind of a cool.
Thank you, Kim.
Just the difference between a V-neck sweater would make you look like an old dude.
I mean, I just
got the
Kim,
jacket
how are you?
with the collar pop sometimes, and it gives you a little bit of cool.
Yeah, Adidas tracksuit. Thank you, Shadow Producer Calvin Wong. That would be a great look. Yeah. Maybe a sports coat and a pocket square, Becky says. Josh Mankiewicz could help you out. Sweater vest and cargo shorts. Yes. I love it. Now we're writing. The Mo Direct has it right. You carry over from an audio-based medium. Don't get caught up in the visual apparel, right? Quit picking on Mark. He looks fine. Thank you, Sandy. Yeah. Cheyenne, where is the Cheyenne comment? Thank you. This will be the last one. I like the jacket. It makes you look professional, casual. Yeah. Thank you. Crocs and socks. Thank you. Anyway, that's the kind of stuff we're up against. I also got an email, and this you'll appreciate. I think you Mamala people will like the emails I'm getting about Kamala Harris. People seem energized by this choice and energized by a potential future Kamala presidency. Bradley, who's one of our favorite listeners and Patreon subscribers, he said, just have to share with you how excited I am for the Kamala Harris campaign. The kids get it. Singer Charlie XCX tweeted on Sunday, Kamala is brat, a reference to her very popular album. And the tweet was viewed over 49 million times so far. One last fun fact, Inauguration Day, January 20th in 2025, falls on MLK Jr. Day. A sweet coincidence, he says. Let's elect our first female president, brat from the Bay, Kamala Harris. Love to you and your whole crew, Mark. Your favorite listener, Bradley. Very nice.
Nice, Bradley.
Yeah, thank you. Again, you can reach us at the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. And it is true that we get a lot of stories from you guys and ideas from you guys. So I do appreciate the back and forth as well. There was other news today, and one of the things that happened, and then we'll get an update from Kim as well on what's happening. There is some Middle East news, and there's stuff going on in Washington. It's not necessarily related to the presidency. But there was one thing reported this morning that I thought we should just get a hold of real quick.
The Mark Thompson Show.
So early this morning, there was word that Jimmy Carter had passed away.
Not true.
Now, it's not true, and it's been rumored for a while that Jimmy Carter's not in the best of shape. He's been in hospice care for a long time. And yet it has been a long time, So I kind of was looking at this information and where it came from. And there is a document coming from the office of Jimmy Carter. But if you read, you see it there, Tony's got it up for you there. Thank you, Tony. From the office of Jimmy Carter.
Thanks, Tony.
Former President Carter, and it gets into the fact that he passed away, okay? And they give the time of his death, et cetera. But look at this paragraph that we've highlighted. Tell me when you read this paragraph if you can't tell it's fake. Despite these successes as president, okay, they've obviously detailed those in the prior paragraph. All of his life, President Carter considered his marriage to former First Lady Rosalind Carter his life's greatest achievement. At her passing last November, President Carter said, quote, Rosalind was a baddie. Jill, Melania, even throat goat Nancy Reagan had nothing on Rosalind. She was the original brat. She gave me wise guidance and encouragement when I needed it. Wouldn't you stop right there and go, okay, guys, this is fake. Okay. Yeah. There's no quote where he said Rosalind was a baddie. throat goat Nancy Reagan, original
problem is-
brat. I mean, come on.
In a newsroom, though, this comes over the wire. You read the first paragraph or even the headline, and you skim the first two, and you're like, people are shouting out, "Oh, Carter's gone."
Yeah,
right?
get the Carter obit on. Get the Carter
Right.
obit. The Carter obit.
And so then they roll it, and no one, it takes 10, 15 minutes until somebody in the back of the room says, "Wait a minute."
Yeah. And you're expecting it because he's been teetering for so long.
He's on hospice care, right?
But yeah, he's in hospice care. So anyway, that was a correction that is definitely needed. He didn't die, is still alive. Jimmy Carter he continues on this day. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
The other thing I wanted to mention to you, because I think it's worth mentioning, and then I will get to Kim's news, is some of this Oppo research and just the tone and what you can expect to hear as the GOP plots new attacks on Kamala Harris. It will come swiftly and it will come completely, but it's already starting. So the National Republican Senatorial Committee is saying to its candidates to hit Vice President Kamala Harris for being too liberal. You also want to hang the border crisis on her, according to this Axios report. This is in a memo obtained by Axios. You also want to call her weird. Again, Republicans are pivoting to a new election playbook that is essentially going to argue that Harris could be even better for down ballot Republicans than President Biden was.
So I learned what brat meant, right? Which is kind of like being okay in your own weirdness and your own individuality. So if they call her weird, that's only going to make people like her more because they'll say, "Oh yeah, well she's brat."
Maybe. Maybe. I mean, that's certainly a good spin on it. The GOP plans to exploit the dynamic of Biden himself having doubted his VP's chances at beating Trump, according to the memo. It is important to remember the only reason Joe Biden held on as long as he did was by aggressively making the case that his vice president is an even worse candidate than him. Again, this is what they wrote in a memo. That was never expressly articulated by Joe Biden. The memo lays out how Republicans will shift their election strategy to run against Harris. It alludes to polling that shows the VP as, if not more unpopular than Joe Biden, in every single competitive state running about where Joe Biden was. The theme throughout, Republicans will paint Harris as a radical progressive, pointing to an old ranking of her as the most liberal senator, and reminding voters of past pledges to ban fracking, decriminalize illegal border crossings, and eliminate cash bail. Immigration is the first policy issue listed in the document. Republicans have long made Harris a boogeyman for record illegal border crossings. This is after Biden charged her with addressing the root causes of migration back in 2021. I told you at the time, I thought that was just like, you talk about dumping, a cesspool of unwinnable, intractable issues on somebody's desk. I mean, the root causes of immigration and illegal border crossings. But anyway, she has to wear it because he did put it on her desk. This memo also includes a weird category. This gets to Kim's thing. Again, this is a memo sent to those running for Senate as Republicans in tight races, and it's generally going to be circulated as a way to attack Kamala Harris, but this particularly pertains to down-ballot races, right? The memo also includes a weird category, as I was saying, mocking Harris, mock her habit of laughing at inappropriate moments, her self-proclaimed love of Venn diagrams, her call to ban plastic straws. Now, Republicans, they suggest here, had been really excited about what they saw as an election landslide if Biden remained at the top of the ticket. His withdrawal does force them to rewrite their plan for victory, right? And they suggest, even as Republicans say that they see real vulnerabilities for Harris, they don't necessarily see the same vulnerabilities that they had with Joe Biden. One senior strategist described a sense of relief in GOP circles that the party seems to be coalescing around Harris rather than other Democratic stars like Pennsylvania Governor Shapiro and Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. What they're saying, candidates should not be shy about aggressively tying their opponents to Kamala Harris's extreme agenda. Kamala Harris is not a good candidate, this is a quote. When she ran for president the first time, she dropped out of the race before Iowa and was polling behind Andrew Yang. You can also say, though, Republicans are scrambling. That was a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. The enthusiasm and momentum that has followed the announcement of Kamala Harris as vice president is indisputable. Now, again, that's momentum and enthusiasm on one side of the aisle. This is going to be a tight race. As I said, I think yesterday and probably many times before, and I'll say it again, the days of landslides are over. I know it feels like we're on this bullet train now with this new candidate and a youth movement, and I think those things do feed into possible success. But she is playing from behind. All the polling would suggest she's playing from behind. And we'll get the first dependable polling in about 10 days to 2 weeks. But there's a lot of work to do. It is a big lift, and you do need Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. You need those 3 states. Everything else is academic in this country. It's a crazy electoral college system, as you know. It's absurd. Why we have it, we've explained several times. There's a short on our channel right now that explains it in 60 seconds if you want to share it with others, but we're stuck with it. And so it comes down to those 3 states. But that's the GOP plan, at least when it comes to senatorial campaigns, to go after Kamala Harris at this point.
Can I note how strange it is that they bring up plastic straws? I don't know why that stands out to me as so bizarre. Is it the race of those who favor eliminating plastic versus those who don't? A plastic straw? That's where we're going to, that's where you're going to focus?
Plastic straws are the shorthand, of course, for she's a crazy environmental activist, right? That's she wanted to ban fracking. She wanted to ban plastic straw. Before you know it, you won't have a stove in your house anymore. It's that whole thing. They want to take away your cars. They want to take away your stove. They want to take away your God. All of this, it just follows all of this, But that's why they mention plastic straws, because it's a shorthand. You can fill in the rest is the idea. So anyway, that's the latest out of GOP land on Kamala Harris, and at least an early strategy as to how to go after her. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash that like button if you would. It helps us in the algorithms of YouTube. I know it's a very weird thing, that YouTube. But it's it's our home court. It's our home platform. We're here live on YouTube 2 hours every day, and then we break out many of our guests and segments and back and forth in videos and in shorts. David Cay Johnston, the brilliant Pultzer Prize winner, joins us in just a few minutes. Looking forward to David's take on so many things that are going on. What an eventful period in American history. I can't think of a better guy to speak to about it. So Jefferson Graham is going to be along, too, in just a moment or two with Tech Tuesday. We've got a lot ahead. We're going to talk about Twitter, in fact, and that was the chosen platform for the Biden announcement. We're also going to talk about the meltdown, the huge meltdown on the Windows platform that has, it brought air travel to a complete halt, and it still has Delta Airlines dealing with intense delays. And I'm told
probably into next week. Yeah.
This is the problem. So we'll touch on that. And Jefferson Graham sent me a message saying, "Aren't you glad you own a Mac?" I am, he said. Hey, how about a shout out to Sal and Cal? Can you put that up there? Sal and Cal, who made a great contribution to the show. You know, we're a crowd-funded show, damn
Big
it.
shout out.
I need to shout people out when they throw us something. 2024, no accident. I was worried about Biden stepping down. Now I am ready for Kamala in 2024. Sal and Cal
Big
says
shout
it.
out.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for the. Well, I'm ready too, and I hope that the campaign is well run, and I hope that they are able to get the proper messaging out there, because I think there is a good message and a good story to be told, but it is all about telling that story, of course. So, all right, Kim's News, and then Jefferson Graham as we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. President Biden says he will address the nation tomorrow from the Oval Office. He made the announcement in a post on X. This will be his first on-camera appearance since he dropped out of the 2024 presidential race on Sunday. Yesterday on the phone, the president told his campaign workers dropping out was the right thing to do. Top Democrats are officially endorsing Kamala Harris for president. There she is, walking with her head held high. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries making the announcement today.
Kim is kind of sweet on Kamala Harris, I've noticed.
Well,
ladies
got to stick together.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Schumer and Jeffries.
There's never been anything like this.
All right, go ahead.
Did I drop out again?
No,
Harris
you're
is ready to lead the nation. The two leaders also praised President Biden's selfless decision to exit the race as well.
It was a big decision. Got to give the guy credit. I mean, he should have made it a while ago, but all right, it was a big decision.
We're saying sayonara today to Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle. Sayonara,
sucker!
Well, I don't think sucker is necessary.
It's not polite. She resigned today after widespread calls from lawmakers following the assassination attempt on former President Trump.
She was pilloried at that. I mean, that was sad that she had to go through all of that. Then she resigns.
Yeah,
I would have resigned before that.
Just, you're out.
You could have
done.
saved yourself all those moments of people demanding your resignation.
Right. It's over.
Good day, sir.
Right.
Secret Service Deputy Director Ron Rowe will serve as acting director of the agency for now. Someone else we can bid sayonara to. Get that drop ready again. He of the gold bars.
Sucker!
Bob Menendez, a Democratic senator of New Jersey, resigning his seat. It is effective August 20th, days after Menendez was convicted of 16 counts, including bribery, extortion, a little bit of wire fraud, some obstruction of justice, and acting as a foreign agent.
There's never been anything like this.
Oh, wow, that's great.
All for his role in a bribery scheme. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, who is a Democrat, says he'll make a temporary appointment to that
Would
seat.
you like to apologize for what you've done?
Yeah, I think he hasn't apologized, by the way. He's just resigned. I mean, he actually has maintained his innocence through the entire process.
You're out. There's a lot of protest kind of gearing up. Anticipation is not the word. Pro-Palestinian groups are gearing up for a major protest as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visits D.C. this week. The groups are organizing bus trips from all over the place, like Boston, New York, Atlanta, Chicago, Philadelphia, all in a bid to surround the U.S. Capitol building in a peaceful protest. Netanyahu is set to address a joint session of Congress on Wednesday. Yeah. There's a judge in Iowa who says the state's strict abortion law will be taking effect on Monday. This prevents most abortions after about 6 weeks of pregnancy, and that is before many women even know that they're pregnant at all. So that takes effect on Monday in the great state of Iowa. Body cam video is being made public after a deadly police shooting of Sonia Massey earlier this month in Springfield, Illinois. This had a vigil for her. This is what happened. The Sangamon County Sheriff's Office in Illinois released the video showing a former deputy shooting this black woman to death inside of her home July 6th. The incident happened after Massey called 911 to report a possible intruder, former deputy, and now being held without bail on first-degree murder charges. So she calls for help, saying there's an intruder, and she's the one shot in her own home.
Jeez.
Those plans to build a new city in Solano County, what is it, California Forever? Forever California?
These are all the tech bros who are going to build their perfect city. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the plans are being pushed aside for now.
Silent
horror, sucker!
Again, backers of the California Forever project deciding to pull a ballot measure that would have let voters decide on this controversial planned city in a rural section of the county near Fairfield. The backers told the community members the goal was to ultimately build a new city that would feature homes for 400,000 residents. Several local groups had come out against the plan, saying it wasn't well thought out and it shouldn't be rushed through on the 2024 ballot. California Forever officials say they will work with several groups and consider trying again in 2026.
Wow.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
It had the backing of some very wealthy people who clearly wanted to build their own enclave, and the way they do it is they pitch it as an enclave that's accessible to everyone. It's going to house 400,000 people. It's going to, it was a little sort of utopian village that they were planning.
Sure.
Yet the reality was likely something different, and apparently they, it was a little like, and it was the same kind of people who started the Ubers of the world. They get the idea and they kind of, be damned with environmental concerns or any kind of infrastructure concerns. Just let's set it up and work it out later. That's the way they did Uber. That's the way a lot of these startup guys work. And that's the way they wanted to do this community. And then finally, the rest of the community, surrounding community, said, well, wait a minute. Let's just pump the brakes on this. And that's what's happened.
That mystery developer is interested now in buying the so-called graffiti towers in downtown Los Angeles. 3 towers are part of the Oceanwide Plaza. It's an unfinished development that's been abandoned for more than 5 years. Since early this year, those towers have been covered in graffiti, taggers climbing the many floors, some spray painting outside windows and walls. The Wall Street Journal reports a local developer is interested in buying the property, fixing it up, and finishing this project. That developer, though, has not been named. In Petaluma, Patrick Daly, the former principal of St. Vincent de Paul College Prep in Petaluma, is behind bars in Sonoma County. Records show the 59-year-old was booked into jail Monday afternoon and is scheduled to appear in court tomorrow. A warrant for Daly's arrest was issued last week. Police confirmed the warrant was connected with an embezzlement investigation involving at least $100,000. Alphabet's attempt to acquire Wiz is failing. The cloud security company walking away from the Google parent's $23 billion offer that would have doubled its valuation. Walking away from Google. The CEO of Wiz says instead the company will pursue an initial public offering. Google has decided not to cancel third-party advertiser cookies in the Chrome browser, the search giant announcing in 2020 that it planned to do away with them. Advertisers use cookies to track online engagement and better target messages for offers to potential customers. So Google was going to do away with that. Now they're not. So just beware. The NFL's regular season schedule could be expanding soon, the executive director of NFL Players Association telling the Washington Post. The union has been in discussions with the league at a very high level about adding an 18th regular season game to the schedule. He said that talks have not reached formal negotiation status yet.
Because there are still too many guys who aren't completely dizzy all the time by the time they're 35. Right. It's there is such money in the NFL, unrivaled in any sport, and yet there's not enough. They want to add another way. Look, I'm a football fan, great, but I think it sacrifices the health of these poor guys who play. And they're not poor guys. They do well, but most of the guys in the league don't make the super big money that might help dull whatever physical and mental setbacks result from a career over 18 weeks playing football.
Beyonce is giving Vice President Kamala Harris the green light to use her song Freedom for her presidential campaign. The superstar giving Harris the rights just before the vice president spoke at her Democratic campaign headquarters on Monday. The song from Beyonce's 2016 Grammy-winning album Lemonade features and references the history of slavery. She says Vice President Harris is free to use it.
No.
This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
Oh, yes.
What are you drinking today?
All right, so let me tell you, we are way in on the cold brew. There is a cold brew at Coachella Valley Coffee, and it's super easy to make. They send you the bag, the cold brew bag of coffee, okay? So you'll open the box, and there'll be that bag you'll see there on the right. And then in that bag, because that's whatever, hermetically sealed or whatever you call it, it's a completely sealed bag. You open it, and there are two, I think, cold brew. Anyway, definitely, there are two. You pull out one of those bags, you put it in a pitcher of water, the prescribed amount of water, and you let it steep overnight. 19 hours is what you're supposed to let it steep. And let me tell you, this cold brew is insane, and it's not just like, oh, it's coffee over ice. No. I don't know exactly what's in the cold brew, but it's got a little edge to it that's really different than just putting coffee in over ice. I really encourage you to check it out. We are massive fans of it here in my house. Again, it's ready to brew cold brew. You get it at Coachella Valley Coffee. It's perfect for this extended heat that we're in. There are the instructions. You'll get 2 filter packs, and 2 filter packs make 1 gallon of fresh cold brew coffee. So we've made them separately. So we're making a half gallon at a time, but I really encourage you to check it out. So it's the cold brew along with everything else that's terrific at Coachella Valley Coffee.
I've got the hibiscus iced tea in the cup today.
Oh, yes.
It's good stuff.
And here they are. It says ready to brew cold brew, berry, lemon, stone fruit, and dark chocolate. That explains it, because it definitely has a little bit of an edge of something else, and it's really delicious. Courtney is over the moon for it. So it's CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And there you can get the cold brew, you can get the hibiscus tea, you can get all the other teas that they offer, full descriptions and tasting notes on all the different coffees and beans. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Mark T at checkout for 10% off anything on the site. You want to get merch if you're like way enthusiastic about Coachella Valley Coffee, go nuts, but you'll get 10% off of everything if you use our code MarkT. So make sure you use that at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Love that they're a part of the show.
McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
I love, by the way, before I get to Jefferson Graham, I was sent this by a Trevor Starr in Hollywood. A new drop. It's from Anthony Davis, who is a frequent visitor here. And
Donald Trump is now the oldest guy, also the weirdest guy.
All right. Trevor felt we needed...
Donald Trump is now the oldest guy, also the weirdest guy.
There you go. So that adds to the rotation when it comes to our show. We love our drops.
Put that coffee down.
Okay. Now let me welcome him in on Tech Tuesday. Jefferson Graham, everybody. Jefferson Graham from PhotoWalks TV, and you are the former tech writer for USA Today, and we continue to ride that horse because we love your knowledge of tech and the tech industry. And let's talk about Twitter. As troubled a platform and as deeply troubled an owner of Twitter is Elon Musk, it's still kind of the platform of choice to make big announcements, right? That's where the president made his announcement. He was pulling out of the race.
Stunned. Beyond the gravity of the news, just the fact that of all the places in all the world that you would go to announce it, why would you go there? You know, this is This is a former Obama supporter who then bought this website, changed his political views, fired 90% of the people that worked there, changed the whole atmosphere into a right-wing and ultra-right wing sort of place for people to feel comfortable at. And that's where Biden goes to make the announcement. He could have made the announcement at Threads. He could have announced it on Instagram. There were many other choices. I was surprised he didn't do a YouTube video, but apparently his voice was so bad he didn't want to go on camera. But they could have run the letter on YouTube and just scrolled it or something. But
yeah, that's a good point. That would have been another way to do it. I think it's a default move for a lot of journalists and those who work with the press. I mean, that's basically, those are the people that are putting out that statement. I think it's a reflex move, and it may have to change, because that reflexive move is no longer maybe a sound one, because as you say, it supports tacitly this platform, which has a lot of problems, a lot of trouble.
The owner of it said that I support Donald Trump. I want him to be reelected, and I'm going to spend $45 million a month to get him reelected. And that's where you're putting your announcement. That's where you're putting your announcement. You know, they don't even make any claims about being, in between and impartial.
I mean, it's interesting that Jeff, as a reasonable alternative to YouTube, could they have posted on Facebook, I suppose, right?
Yeah, the knock on Facebook is that you have to be a member. And so that's why they always wanted to go to Twitter, because you didn't have to be a member. Just everybody could see it. You didn't have to sign in. LinkedIn has picked up some of the slack, but, I got a link to look at something there today, and I wasn't logged in and I couldn't see it. So Twitter, you could see it. Threads, I believe you could see, but
yeah,
you could have sent a note to the AP and said, "Here,
sure,
run with it."
That's right. Here is Mars saying, "I don't see Twitter as ultra right wing. There's ultra left, center, all in between on my feeds."
Okay, my feeds have put a lot of ultra far right stuff in there that wasn't invited to be there. I get a lot of James Woods and Kevin Sorbo and Dean Cain showing up. No, thank you.
Spencer Griffith says, I saw the Biden announcement on Instagram. Wasn't it published on multiple platforms, he asks.
Probably was, but it was announced on Twitter, and then it was followed up with, oh, and by the way, I support Kamala. That was also
by the way,
Twitter.
Spencer, thank you for the $5 super
Big
chat.
shout out.
Yeah.
And it's not just him, because I checked it today, and where did Gretchen Whitmer want to announce that she was supporting Kamala? It was on Twitter, and Gavin Newsom makes his announcements on Twitter, and they're still all doing it.
Yeah, you're right. There's a disconnect there, especially with a guy who's been so full-throatedly supportive of Trump with the $45 million, as you suggested. I want to ask you about this total meltdown that we've just been through with the Windows system. Could you review again briefly why it happened? It was a security update glitch, or go ahead.
This is everybody's worst nightmare. Your computer has to be upgraded for a software update. Do you agree to click the button, or they do it overnight and they make you do it? And I don't know about you, Mark, but even though I'm a tech guy and I'm supposed to say yes every time, yes, it makes our computer safer, I cringe and I think, do I really want to do this? Everything's working fine now. Why do I need to do the update? So anyway, they did the update. It was on Windows computers, and the nation came to a crawl. So all of the airlines, I don't know if it's all the airlines, but it's been
most
hysteria,
of them, yeah.
Hysteria at the airports, and that's primarily where most of the problems have been, is at the airports. And we're talking on Tuesday. This thing I think started on Saturday or Sunday, or Friday. It started on Friday, and it's still going on. It was only affected Windows computers. I have a Mac, I'm really happy to have one. And
were Windows personal computers affected as well?
I don't know if it was Windows personal computers, but it was Windows software.
Yeah, definitely. It threw a wrench into
But in terms of the updates, think long and hard when you're being pushed to do the update. Is it really worth it? And is there a way for you to go back if it doesn't work out? Because most of the times there isn't. So,
but as you suggest, you don't really have a choice a lot of the time, Jeff. I mean, it's just they say.
Yeah, you don't have a choice. I know that on my Mac, I have been pushed by Apple to upgrade to the latest operating system for the last year, and I've rejected it because I've done it before, and there've been programs that all of a sudden don't work in the new operating system. So I resist. On the phone, I'm a little better about it because you get new features with it. On the computer, I'm very wary.
Finally, I want to ask you about the iPhone, the new iPhone. You were saying that this potentially, could be very expensive.
Yeah, well, more expensive. That there was a report that they will be raising the rates by $100. And so in the scheme of things, going from $1,100 to $1,200 is not that onerous. It's just $100 more, but it's still $100 more. And clearly you're going to be paying more for this stuff because they're putting all these AI tools in there. They weren't free. They cost Apple a lot of money, and they want to make some of their money back. We'll see how many of the AI tools really matter to any of us. I've talked about the chattier, more responsive Siri, which actually won't be until the following spring. It will get email summarized and some of some things that you may care about or may not care about.
So this makes the iPhone the most expensive, I would think, phone available, right? I mean, there's no Android that rivals that.
No, I think there's a Galaxy that's in that range.
In that same space to $1,200.
Yeah. The Pixel's starts at $500.
Yeah. You use both, of course.
I use everything.
Yeah.
But iPhone is my favorite.
Your iPhone's your favorite for
everything.
pics or for
everything?
For everything.
Yeah.
Just because you feel it's most intuitive, or what do you like about
it? I like the feel. I like the look. I like the operation. I like the way it talks to my Macintosh computer. I like the photos. I like the video. And it's just an easier thing to use. I have been playing around with the Pixel in the last week, and that is a very nice phone. Operationally, very nice phone, underrated, easier to use, probably better to use than the Galaxy.
Well, I am wondering if there's anything we can do to inoculate ourselves from the next meltdown involving updates. And you're saying just think long and hard before you update, but oftentimes you really don't have much choice. Meantime, we also covered the Twitter default that many high-profile press announcements and political announcements seem to find their way to. Feels like Instagram is one of those places too, Jeff, on that.
A lot of celebrities like to do Instagram because first of all, they write longer, they can add a picture, and they're in total control. So maybe Beyonce wants to announce a new album, but doesn't want to say it in 2 sentences. Maybe she wants to go, go a little longer. The knock is that there's no link. It's really hard to push people
great
places.
point. Great point. Yeah. It's always something. I like
YouTube. I like YouTube right here. Smash
YouTube,
it.
Right here on
smash it.
What shows up in my YouTube feed a lot is AI pictures of you. Look, This is the latest AI picture. This is what AI did with my picture. It's like, I got it, dude. Can we just back off on the pictures a little bit? I mean, I'm starting to feel about YouTube like I log on and there's another picture of Jefferson Graham. It's like your platform now.
Wow. I'm sorry, Mark.
Yes, well, I feel that way, like you feel about...
There's never been anything like this.
I think we're both at the same place. Like, you're sick of that drop.
There's never been anything like this.
And I don't need to see any more AI pics of you.
Okay, well, I only did it once, but I'll never do it again. People think
there's a cowboy hat one, then there's another one. What do you mean you only did it once?
I did it once for this one piece that I wrote about where I was trying out all the apps and I wanted to show how bad they were. And then people thought that meant I really liked them and I don't like them. But
I'm giving you a hard time. It was just very funny. It was coming up very frequently for one day, but it's fine. We love
I'm going to go back to pretty pictures of open roads.
There you are. Jefferson Graham. Montana is his latest spot. You can find him at Photo Walks TV, and you find him here on Tech Tuesday. Jeff, thank you. Jefferson Graham, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Love talking to you.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It is sad that I must leave you guys. I have to run over to iHeartRadio, KFI Radio Los Angeles, and do a show. And the thing that amplifies my sadness is that really my favorite conversation of the week is coming up, and I won't be able to be part of it. But David Cay Johnston. What's that?
Anything you want me to ask Mr. Johnston?
Well, no, I think he's gonna have a great take on our situation politically, and also this moment in history. I mean, that's why I think this is an important conversation with David Cay Johnston. He can contextualize this in terms of the historic nature of it. And then I think I really am curious, because I think he does have a feel for this. He knows Donald Trump so well. He knows the playbook so well. I'm curious as to what he thinks they will go after with Kamala Harris. I reviewed a few of the things from that memo that was sent to those in senatorial races. I reviewed that in the first hour. But I'm really curious as to what David thinks that strategy will be moving forward. So smash the like button for the first hour, if you would. And Kim will continue with David Cay Johnston and more. All right. Go for it, Kim.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is the Mark Thompson Show, and I will not make David Cay Johnston wait. He is an investigative journalist, an author, the winner of the Pultzer Prize, friend of the show, David Cay Johnston, everybody.
Well, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
Good. You've got your fireplace in the background. You're looking very cozy there. And this is
painting of my wife and I walking on top of the clouds.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. That's really sweet. So this has been a huge, huge week. We have President Biden withdrawing from the 2024 race. We now, it seems, the delegates have lined up behind Kamala Harris so far, and that's what it looks like. Do you want to share your thoughts on this before we kind of dig into the opposition?
Well, I think one of the silliest things I've seen on TV news and online has been along the lines of, well, you notice that Barack Obama hasn't endorsed her. Chuck Schumer hasn't endorsed her. No, the reason that you've seen these appear as they have is that by individually stepping forward and saying, hi, I'm Chuck Schumer, I'm endorsing Kamala, they get more and more news coverage. If 6 of them all came out in the same hour, they get lost. By doing it this way, they reinforce this image of unity. And there's been very little coverage of the fact that the chairman of all 50 state Democratic parties have said, we're behind Kamala. Yep. So this is, I'll have a piece up at DC Report later today. It's being edited right now. But I hope people will read, because it has some things I'm not going to go into on the show, but that are going to be different, the take on it, than what's going on in the news. But, you know, the polling clearly was showing, in a lot of polling we haven't seen, but what we know in feedback from down ballot politicians and political professionals, that Biden just wasn't cutting it. And most disturbingly, a lot of people, particularly independents, were saying, I'm just going to stay home, I'm not going to vote. Mm-hmm. And so Biden, by stepping back, the last time this happened was on March of 1968, when Lyndon Baines Johnson stepped back. He knew that because he had pursued the Vietnam War, he was not going to get another term. He would have gone down as a really great president in history if he just hadn't listened to the people who said you got to prosecute the war in Vietnam. And so Biden, for the good of the country and the party, is stepping back. And Donald is terrified. And what I'm about to say, I don't mean to insult Kamala Harris in this at all. I mean, I do mean to insult Donald. Very shortly after the announcement on Sunday, Donald said he would not be going to the September presidential debate because it wasn't Joe Biden. And my view of that is, well, of course not. Donald's afraid of a girl. And that's how Donald would think about this. I mean, to Donald, if you're not white, you're not quite a full person. And none of us are really persons to him. We are objects to be transacted with, either to be blunted or to be used. He tells you, well, I only hire the best people. And then when they come to see who he is, as many of his staff in the White House did, and 40 of his 44 cabinet members, well, they're terrible people. They're just awful people. I had to get rid of them. Well, I'm sorry, why'd you hire him in the first place? And that goes to how everything about Donald is a facade. He's just a con artist. He bluffs his way through things. He's terrified because with Joe Biden in the campaign, the Democrats were drifting. There certainly was no enthusiasm. I mean, Biden has turned in the most extraordinary economic performance for the country. America has the best economy in the world by far. No matter how much Donald and J.D. Vance lie about this, jobs created, lower inflation now is below the average since World War II. And yet they're out there saying, oh, prices have tripled and quadrupled. And they have this
ketchup costs more at the grocery store. Yeah.
Yeah, well, things do cost more over time. That's even very low inflation, but the rate has dropped down now to a perfectly manageable 3%. And presidents don't control most of this. The world oil price is not controlled by a president. It's not set by a president. Presidents don't determine if there's tornadoes or hurricanes that knock out crops or interfere with pipelines or other things. But the Democrats are clearly energized. There was a phone call Sunday for black women who are in politics. Some of them are just interested in politics. Some of them are office holders. And they expected fewer than 1,000 people to get on the Zoom call. 44,000 black women.
Wow.
44,000.
Wild. Wow.
She raised, according to almost every news report, $81 million in less than 24 hours. According to the New York Daily News, that's wrong. She raised $231 million. That's almost $250 million because a bunch of big money donors have agreed they're going to put up money. J.D. Vance, I just got an email from him a minute ago, in which, well, you're seeing how the liberal billionaires are out there trying to destroy MAGA. And it's not legitimate, of course, for a Democrat to raise money, but a black woman who's half East Indian to raise money like this? I mean, clearly something is wrong. There must be a conspiracy afoot, is the approach that the Trump people are trying to take. Donald is scared, and he has good reason to be. Anybody who's watched, and you can go on the internet and see them, when she was a senator, and she wasn't a senator very long, Kamala Harris questioning Attorney General Bill Barr, a Trump appointee, will see that this is somebody who knows how to go after liars. I mean, she's not quite as good as Katie Porter, but she's really good.
Yeah, she was
exceptional. The case against Trump.
I like this the kind of mantra of prosecutor versus felon, or one of the things I had the top of my list to talk to you about, which you already have hit really hard, is that Donald Trump seems to be trying to back out of the second presidential debate. But I kind of want to delve into that a little bit more, because one of the things he's doing, he isn't just saying, listen, it's not Joe Biden. I didn't sign on for this. No, thank you. He's throwing all this kind of spaghetti at the wall. Well, ABC is horrible. If this is going to happen, it needs to be on Fox News. And he's coming up with all these excuses, kind of laying the groundwork with, all these piddly excuses for why he can't. And you think it's because he's scared to stand on stage with her? Because he stood on stage with Hillary Clinton, and she was equally as intimidating.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton made some big mistakes when she debated Trump. The most classic was when he started stalking her.
Yep.
And around the stage. And she
oh my God, who does that? So
yeah,
creepy.
Well, many people, her reaction was one of weakness.
Yeah.
She should have turned around, gone face to face with him and said, your place is over there. It's my turn to speak. And if she had to stand there for the whole rest of the debate, I think she should have stood there. But Kamala knows how to present a case. I mean, she was a standard prosecutor in Alameda County, Oakland, before she was to the surprise of a lot of people, elected DA. She got elected Attorney General. The Republicans now, the Trump campaign is trying to push the argument that she was tough on people of color and there's something wrong with her. I'm sorry, what? You're saying what? Are they going to go after her because she had an affair when she was in her 20s with Willie Brown in San Francisco? Gee, that's kind of hard as a case to make given Donald's behavior. But if Donald brought it up in the debate, she'd throw it right back in his face.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Donald is really deeply troubled because he was coasting along. You know, he wasn't out there campaigning very hard as he wasn't in 16 or in 20. And now he's facing a formidable challenger. But most importantly, Kamala has excited a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you can see it in all the internet traffic going back and forth and the money being donated. Independents who are going to sit it out, I think a lot of them are excited about this. And of course, remember in the primary elections for Donald, about 1 in 5, it varied from state to state, but about 1 in 5 Republicans voted for Nikki Haley or someone else. That is, they voted against Trump. Biden got, I think it was 97% of Republican votes. It was north of 90% of Democratic votes in their primaries. They've also are going to try and cheat. Mike Johnson, the speaker, who is a lawyer from Louisiana, he contends that Kamala can't appear on the ballot in some states. Absolute nonsense. The Democrats haven't nominated anybody yet. She's only the presumptive nominee. I saw another Republican saying, well, she can't have the money that was raised by Joe Biden. I don't know. Exactly.
They're going to mount a challenge over the money, the legality of the money being hers, right?
All right. But the one thing that Biden, I know what Biden can do for sure. I'm not sure about transferring it to the successor and what the inner rules of that are. We'll find out. But he absolutely can transfer it to the Democratic National Committee, which can then use it as it sees fit on behalf of her campaign and down ballot candidates. And down ballot candidates who were really worried if they were in competitive districts that they were in trouble, I think they now all see opportunity. The Democrats were sort of drifting in the political doldrums because Biden just wasn't connecting with people. He wasn't countering the lies about economic performance and other things. Now they get somebody who she's going to hammer this and take it home. And Donald knows this, and he's afraid. He's afraid. And remember, Donald likes women who are subservient. He likes a woman, as long as you're subservient to him, that's perfectly cool. You do what he says. You stand there and remember, women who challenge him, he calls them dogs, fat pigs, ugly, things like that. And it was so humiliating for him to lose to a white man that he tried to overthrow our government in 2021. Losing to a black woman? Donald has no capacity to deal with the humiliation of that. And remember, he has repeatedly said that if he doesn't get back to the White House, it's the end of our country. And I interpret that as lightly coded, we're going to try and overthrow the government again. In fact, several Republicans have said that if he doesn't go back to the White House, we will have a civil war. One of the people at the Heritage Foundation said, in essence, we're starting a whole new revolution, and it'll be bloodless as long as the left doesn't oppose us. I'm sorry, you want us to just fall over dead and give you our country?
Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I have that on my list of things to ask you about too. And what you said there, though, I was going to ask you about what people are saying. Oh, a woman can't win. America's not ready for a woman, let alone a black woman.
Nonsense.
But
Nonsense.
I feel that's too. So let's go right to what happens if she does win, and what happens what do you? We hear this drumbeat for the Civil War. We saw this speaker in Pennsylvania stand up at this rally, a speaker at an Ohio rally, rather, call for a civil war, right? And this isn't the first person to say this. This isn't the first drumbeat of this. This isn't we had Steve Bannon talking about war to the knife or the knife to the whatever. The words and the rhetoric that they're using can be dangerous. And so then what does it look like at the end of this election when Trump goes home the loser?
So we've been in a low-grade civil war since January 6th, 2021. And I wrote that back at the time. Let's not mistake what's going on. There is an effort to overthrow our government. It will fail. If Trump gets back into the White House, it will succeed. But I don't believe at this point Trump is going to get back in the White House. And I think the reason he's running scared is because he knows it's possible he can get there, but no longer likely he will get there. And the reason for all this is very simple. More than 50 years ago, around 1969 or 70, political scientists started warning the Republican Party that you will be a permanent minority party by 2020 if you don't change. The country is going to no longer be heavily white dominated. And California was on the cutting edge of this. It was the first time I remember. I was a reporter at the San Jose Mercury back then. I was a teenager in '68 when I was on the staff. I was a front page staff writer. The phrase majority minority, I think was the phrase, meaning you're the largest group, but you're still a minority. And that's happened in California. And as a friend of mine said when we were having lunch last month, he said, well, the Republicans can't change because this is who they are. They want white dominance to the extent that they have people of color. Many of them have internalized white dominance or think that it will help them to go along with this. They want to cut off benefits to people who don't have money, whether they're through no fault of their own. They could be somebody like my father, 100% disabled veteran of World War II. What are we spending money on those people for? I remember Donald Trump, by the way, wouldn't meet with some soldiers because they'd had amputations or other disfiguring results from defending our country in the Middle East, and he didn't want to be around them. Had no regard. And so I think the Republicans this is sort of their last hurrah. If the Democrats, now that they're energized, retain control of the White House, retain control of the Senate, and gain control of the House, the Republican Party is going to have to either somehow remake itself or we're going to see a new and different party emerge. And the people who gave up their principles to bow down to Donald Trump, and that's what they did. Let's not beat around the bush. Nikki Haley, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, a whole slew of these people who were against Trump, J.D. Vance, who called Donald Trump cultural heroin and then compared him to Hitler.
They have America's Hitler. That's right.
Yes, they've all thrown away any sense that they have anything except a rubber spine and are going to bow down to Donald Trump. One hopes that this will be the end of their careers. It may not be, but it should be. And I think those people will end up paying a fairly heavy price for what they've done. Whereas maybe the only two really principled Republicans in all of this were Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, who got voted out in primaries. Mitt Romney has proven to be milquetoast. I mean, he'll sometimes say the right things. He voted for conviction in the second impeachment, but he's not being forceful. He's not running for election. Mm-mm. So cowardice is the standard form here. And Kim, one of my most important thoughts all the way along about Trumpism is this. More than 1 million people died so that we could have this country. More than 1 million of them. The Civil War, every 40th person, and since they were almost all men, roughly every 20th person in the country who's male died over the Civil War, which was over slavery. If you went to school and were taught it said nothing to do with slavery, they lied to you. It's right in the documents of secession. And to not do the right thing because you might get voted out of office, that is an act of absolute cowardice. It is shameful. And we need to recognize these people who just can't stand up to Donald Trump because they'll get run out.
I think about that a lot, and I think about the oath of office and the oath that all the Congress people have to take, along with members of the military and the president, which I know that oath is a little bit different. But you preserve and protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. And we have a candidate here that has no use for the Constitution, it would seem. I guess where I get caught up in this is how people can call themselves patriots and wear flag t-shirts and wave the American flag when it's clear they're supporting a candidate who doesn't believe the basic tenets of what the country was founded on.
Right. Well, Donald has no idea what's in the Constitution. I mean, he made the assertion, I have a Article 2 that lets me do whatever I want. Article 2 is like 450 words long. You can go read it. It doesn't say anything like that. It says the duty of the president is to faithfully execute the laws and to be the commander in chief. And there are a lot of people in this country who call themselves patriots whose behavior has nothing to do with patriotism, just as there are a lot of people in this country who call themselves Christians, but they don't turn the other cheek. Mm-hmm. They don't welcome the stranger. They preach hatred, anger, taking from the poor, not sacrificing for the poor. And this is one of the most problematic issues in America, and it's not a new issue. From the beginning, when we had Calvinists in the early days of British colonial America, this idea that if you have money, it's the sign that God has put his grace upon you, has been troubling for this country. It's been used to justify owning other human beings. And one of the things I teach my students in the law classes is that New World slavery has nothing to do with the slavery of the ancient world that's mentioned in the Bible, etc. People in the ancient world had rights. People volunteered to become slaves because it got them fed, clothed, and housed. Many of the people who ran businesses for the well-to-do in the ancient world were slaves. In New World slavery, you can beat, rape, murder your people because it's not rape or murder, because they're not human beings under the law. Mm-mm. And religion allowed this. It was pastors here in England, though they got run off quicker in England, who sold this notion without seeing the difference between the old world slavery and what was on in the new world. And, John Kenneth Galbraith, the great economist, supposedly once said that modern American conservatism is an effort to justify oppressing the poor. I mean, I don't have his words quite right, but that's the general gist of his argument. And I think there's a fair amount of truth to that. We're always going to have people who dislike equality, whether it's gender, racial, LGBTQ. They're just not going to like it.
Sure.
And that's fine. We can have a diverse idea about that. But we are not going to, I don't believe the majority of American people believe in what Donald Trump is pushing, which is we should have a dictator, we should have a theocracy. We're going to force Christianity on everybody, whether you're a believer of a specific version of Christianity, you're Jewish, you're Muslim, you're Zoroastrian, you're an agnostic, you're an atheist. But Donald has created this aura of invincibility, and it just got taken away from him.
What's really interesting, and you mentioned religion, is that it doesn't seem to me that former President Trump spends a lot of time in church. But as we have Mindy talking about, Trump wants Project 2025, which is, from what I understand, part of this includes doing away with the separation of church and state, bringing religion into public schools, all of these things. Is this something, we talked a little bit about how the GOP will be, going after Kamala Harris. Is the Project 2025 issue something that Democrats should be hammering home when it comes to attacking the other side?
Yes, but they have to do it with some skill, because Donald is now saying, and notice the contradiction in this, I have no idea what's in it, never read it. But there are parts of it I like, and there are parts of it I don't like. Well, I'm sorry. How do you know what you like and don't like if you haven't read it?
You haven't read it. Exactly.
When Project 2025 started, Donald Trump showed up and said, these are my people. They're going to write our plan. You're going to know what we're going to do when I return to the White House. And now he wants to run away from it. And of course he does, because Dobbs, the first ever U.S. Supreme Court decision that took a right away from American people, Roe v. Wade, that decision is incredibly unpopular. And it's unpopular with lots of conservatives who see it as the government, being much too involved. There's the old line about the conservatives want a government that's so small they can force it into your vagina.
Oh, my. No, thank you.
Yeah, right. But in Project 2025 also defines a family as essentially being a heterosexual married couple with children. Well, I'm sorry, I can't tell you how many people I know who are heterosexual, married, and don't have kids. Either they don't want to have them, they're infertile, or they're old. Right. It also proposes, in a subtle way that you could miss if you don't know the law, effectively making all contraception illegal. Condoms, IUDs, birth control pills. And here's how it would do that. It says that no contraceptive can be shipped by what's called common carrier. So let's assume I was a David Cay Johnston IUD manufacturer. Mm-hmm. As long as I have my own fleet of trucks and only ship in my trucks, I can sell my IUDs, send them to each doctor's office. But I can't call up Schneider or one of the other big trucking companies and say, I need 1/10 of a truckload or 1/4 truckload for my boxes. Come by and pick up my boxes and move them. That's a common carrier. And people aren't going to catch this detail of what matters. So to prosecute this, somebody like Kamala is going to understand how to make this work. And by the way, banning contraception, I'm 75 years old, not a big deal in my life, but I don't understand how anybody under 50 would be in favor of banning contraception unless you're, one of the small segment of society who doesn't believe in birth control. And that's a very small segment of our society.
No, that would be used to control women. Something else that Vilma says, age has finally caught up to Trump in comparison to Kamala Harris. Yeah. Is it wise for Democrats to flip the tables with age and use that against Trump?
I think so. And we'll see what the professionals are telling pretty quickly by how they frame this. But yeah, Donald is now the oldest person running for president of the United States. He is 78 years old. He's not in good health. He claims to weigh less than I do, and he's 3 inches taller than me. If Donald weighs 235 pounds, I'm George Clooney.
Yeah.
And I think this can be used very effectively, particularly when Donald is on the campaign trail and he goes into gibberish. Listeners and viewers, you can go to Google searches and put in Trump and gibberish and rally, and you'll find in some places compilations where Donald is going along talking like I am, like this, and seeming to make sense.
Yeah, he's got some issues. Mm-hmm.
And he'll go on for 25 seconds that way.
Yep.
There's something amiss, and I don't know if it's his misuse of drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, or age or something else, but it's hard for him to make the argument that he's all there that he was making against Joe Biden. Donald has charisma. Let's acknowledge Donald has charisma. Joe Biden didn't. He didn't have any charisma, never has. Kamala Harris, she's got it. She's exciting people.
She does seem to be exciting. The Rocket says, you can see the whole Trump follower operation malfunctioning since Joe Biden dropped out. It's super obvious. It does seem to have thrown a wrench into the whole, smooth Republican operation.
Yeah, this is a whole new ball game, a completely new ball game. Now you're going to see various coded attacks that are racist. We've already seen several prominent Republicans say that Kamala Harris was a DEI hire, affirmative action hire. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, she's never lost a campaign she was in. She's won every single election she was in. And my understanding from some people I've talked to in the past is that as a manager, at least at the California Attorney General's office, she was a pretty good manager. She knew how to, that's the job of the president of the United States is manage, right? This is important. We're going to deal with it. This you got to shove off to somebody else. This I don't have time for it all. Let's do this. Let's not do that. What is possible? Can we get the coalition to do this? You have to make decisions like that all day long.
Right.
And she apparently has a pretty good track record of that. We'll see pretty soon. I mean, if she is a fraud like Donald, and it's all appearance, that'll come out real quick. I don't expect it will. So, and she knows how to do them. Donald has no capacity, Kim, to laugh at himself.
Right.
There's a very few videos where you'll see Donald laugh, and it's just forced. It's almost like watching a hostage video. And Kamala, I think, will demonstrate that she can get under his skin. And if you can mock him and get under his skin, because inside he's this hollow vessel, he tries to pose as a strong man, but he's a frightened 13-year-old boy inside who's been reliving the nightmare version of Groundhog Day for 60 years. She can probably make him do some nutty things. When I was covering Daryl Gates, the LA police chief, if I wanted him to get off his game and say nutty things, I would come to some gathering he was going to be at, and I would wear a white cotton suit with white shoes and a pink shirt with a pink and teal tie and a Panama hat with a pink hat band. And it would just make him go crazy. He would just, say the craziest things, because you're not in control of everything about you, right? Some of nature is built into who you are. And Donald, if you get under his skin and mock him, he just loses it. Yeah. He may not lose it in the moment, but do it early enough and often enough, he'll have a very hard time. I also expect that we will not get through this without some violence, because this will have a reaction on the side of people who love Donald and who hate minority people and hate women. I hope the Secret Service is very seriously protecting both candidates, doing a much better job than this screw up they had in Pennsylvania.
I was reading this article in the Huffington Post about who Trump fears most as a running mate for Kamala Harris. And the author of a book called American Carnage, his name is Tim Alberta. He says they are Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona and Governor Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, because he says, Mr. Alberta, both of these gentlemen are able to potentially put into play battleground states that the Trump folks were confident that they had already taken off the map.
Yeah, I also think that this is true of Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan,
who has said she won't be a vice president to Kamala Harris, but has endorsed her. Yeah,
she pulled herself off of this, but she could be the same thing. Mark Kelly is probably the stronger choice of those two. But, I've never interviewed anybody in my life, and politics is not my game. So let's be clear. I've not been out on the road except once with a campaign, and then not for very long because I didn't like it. But I've never talked to anybody in my life who said their choice for who they voted for president was based on the vice president. What you can do is make a mistake. John McCain's people didn't vet Sarah Palin. They had no idea that she was ignorant and dumb, and it turned out very good evidence that nothing happened to her. She was utterly corrupt. The late, great Wayne Barrett, who was the first journalist who got on Donald, called up contractors who worked on her home and asked them if they had any invoices. And the first three of them said no. And then everybody by then got a phone call back and forth, and nobody would talk to him. But how did, on the modest income of the Palin family, did they afford this very expensive home built by the same contractors who put up the $22 billion Wasilla Community Center? They didn't check her out, and it became disastrous for them. damaging. And I don't think you will see Harris make this mistake. When you vet somebody for a job like this, one of the things you do is check out their background. And the second thing is you really grill them in private to the point they can be feeling like you're under attack and it's insulting, but to make sure there isn't something buried. Because, you don't want to pick a U.S. senator or a governor to be vice president on a family values ticket and have what happened that eventually got Barack Obama to the White House. And that was, he was allowed to run for the U.S. Senate in Illinois in 2006 because the Democrats were sure they would lose. A guy named Jack Ryan, a rich Republican family values candidate, was going to win. And then it turned out that he had tried to get his wife, the actress Jerry Ryan, to have sex in front of him at sex clubs. That was the end of Jack Ryan as a candidate, and Barack Obama eventually went to the White House. So every time you see 7 of 9 on TV or whatever role Jerry Ryan is playing, just always remember. But for her, Barack Obama would never have gotten to the White House.
Wow. You have on DC Report, not you personally, another journalist has written it, Terry Schwadron, an article called Trump's Bullet for Democracy. And I know I'm over my David Cay Johnston time, but I wanted to ask you about this.
I haven't read it yet. I saw it. I was doing local radio at noon today about my appointment as a professor at the Rochester Institute of Technology. Job will start next month. Terry Schwadron, for 18 years, was one of the best editors at the LA Times, and for the next 18 years, one of the best at the New York Times. He is one of the finest editors I've ever known in my life. He asked me once to go do a story, and I looked at him. I said, "Really?" And he said, I want you to go do this." And because of my respect for him, I didn't argue with him. I just went and did it. It turned out to be one of the best things I ever did in my life. He has exquisite news judgment. He should have been on the masthead of the New York Times, but he wasn't. He was a very senior editor, but he wasn't on the masthead.
It's at dcreport.org, and the article is called Trump's Bullet for Democracy. And it goes on, it starts with what Trump said. He's at a rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which was, "Last week I took a bullet for democracy." And he goes on to talk about, Mr. Schwadron, what does that near miss have to do with Trump protecting democracy? And it's just a really good article. So I would ask anyone to go check it out. As far as this assassination attempt and what it means for the Republicans going forward. Yeah, there's the article right there.
What happened to Donald is absolutely indefensible. It's full of irony. The young man who shot him is a registered Republican, and we don't know why he did it. But let me point this out. Donald has this huge bandage on his ear, right? And there are all sorts of people who showed up wearing bandages as a sign of solidarity.
So ridiculous, yeah.
Well, according to Eric Trump, there were no stitches. Not a one. I had a surgery for skin cancer Monday a week ago, 8 days ago. Or no, I guess 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry, Monday 2 weeks ago. And the bandage that was on my ear, you might not notice. If I'd worn, I may have even worn it on the show 2 weeks ago. But you could miss it very easily. And I had 9 stitches. So what Donald did here in that level is very clear. He exploited this. He tried to make it look like it was a really big deal. And his exploitation is crude. For example, he went at the Republican convention where he was supposed to speak 3,000 words, and he spoke 12. And he went over and kissed the fireman's coat. I don't know if you noticed this, but the fireman's coat from Buffalo Township, his name is misspelled on the coat. Joe Biden immediately called the widow of Comparatori and the families of the other 2 people who were shot but not killed. Trump didn't do that until after lots of news reports pointed out he hadn't done that. That's not surprising. I mean, Donald claims hundreds of my friends died when 9/11 happened. Really? How many funerals did you go to? 0. When he had to call the family of Sergeant David Johnston, who was one of the 4 American Army members killed in Niger in an ambush, he insulted the widow. He has insulted Gold Star families. He doesn't know how to do it. I mean, I've had to tell people, the youngest when I was either 19 or 20, about a murder that they had, a kid murdered or a spouse, and other people about death. And Donald not only doesn't know how to do it, but he has no empathy for anyone. And the way he's handled the attempt on his life, the same thing. He has no empathy for other people. So I hope some people look at DC Report. It should go up this evening, East Coast time, early evening, West Coast time, so you can see it tomorrow. It's a whole new ball game, Kim. It's a completely new ball game. I think the cash spigots are going to stay open, and lots of women are excited now about the prospect that we'll have Kamala Harris in the White House. I think she'd be a good president. I don't think she'd be a great president, but compared to Donald, I'll take almost anybody compared to Donald.
No, I've heard a lot of people say...
Yeah, he's announced that he intends to become our dictator, and if you think he's going to give that up after one day, I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you.
I've heard a lot of people say to me personally, I feel hope and optimism for the first time in a long time.
Yeah. And because she can take the fight to him and hammer him in a way that even on his best days, Joe Biden just couldn't do that. Joe Biden, as a U.S. senator for 30 years and as vice president, did deals in, leaning over the shoulders of each other and whispering in their ears, sitting down at a negotiating table, talking on the phone. He's fearless. He went during the Bosnia-Herzegovina War, as my best friend calls it, the Bosnia Schizophrenia War. He went and confronted one of the genocidal monsters, sat down across the table from him and, as chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, and nobody in the public knew he was there, and said, if you don't knock this off, murdering whole villages, killing the grandmothers and the little children, you're going to die in prison because we're going to arrest you and we're going to prosecute you at The Hague. Can you imagine Donald Trump having the courage to do something like that, or having the knowledge of what to say if he did that? It's just not possible because Donald literally doesn't know anything. So this campaign now, you have someone who has the skill Biden really doesn't have to reach out and excite people.
Yep.
And I think you're going to see, I think she'll win the popular vote. But Biden was going to win the popular vote. The question is, will she win the Electoral College? And that's a function of, do the Democrats put the money into getting people to the polls in the seven battleground states? I think there's 13 that really could be in play, but that's what they have to do. Don't spend money in California except for congressional districts. Don't spend money in Massachusetts, and Trump shouldn't spend money in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Those states are all going to go for him. Focus on the places like Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, where we're not sure how they're going to go. So
you mentioned, and I know I have to let you go, but you mentioned international politics, and it's been on my mind about Kamala Harris as to whether that's a strong suit of hers.
No, it's not. That's her area of weakness, and the answer to that is you have a strong Secretary of State and strong advisors, and they take care of this. And by the way, a little thing to remember about how to pronounce her name, which Trump and J.D. Vance keep mispronouncing, perhaps intentionally. Comma. La. There's a button with a comma and L-A. It's not Kamala.
No.
Not Camella.
I got it right? I mean, she's been in California fixture for a long time, so if I get it wrong, we're in trouble.
But you've now got a national audience. I ran into another person who saw me on this show who's here in Rochester, New York, and they don't just watch what I'm on. So you're building a national audience, and that's really terrific. But people should get her name right. Kamala Harris.
That's right. David Cay Johnston, it is not only an honor, but an absolute treat for me to be able to talk with you on the Mark Thompson Show. Thank you for being here. Really looking forward to what you have to say next week. I can't wait to see you again. Thank you for coming by.
Take care. See you next week.
Bye. David Cay Johnston, everybody. Yeah, awesome. All right, let's do a little bit of news here on the Mark Thompson Show, and then I have a treat for you with That's Rich. But first, a little bit of news here on the Mark Thompson Show. On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. Kamala Harris's presidential campaign is now vetting potential running mates. The campaign has requested vetting materials from several potential running mates to join the vice president on the Democratic ticket, including Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and Arizona Senator Mark Kelly. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, and North Carolina are among the states that Harris needs to win in November in order to defeat Donald Trump. Donald Trump, meanwhile, will host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida. Trump announcing on Truth Social the two will meet on Thursday, one day after Netanyahu delivers an address to a joint meeting of Congress. Trump says his peace through strength agenda will end wars around the globe if he is elected to the White House come November. Reports say that embattled New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez is resigning from Congress in late August. Democratic colleagues were pressuring for him to step down following his conviction on federal bribery charges. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy says if Menendez doesn't resign, he'd move to expel him. Now the governor is expected to appoint a replacement who would serve through the end of the year. And as mentioned earlier, U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle has resigned. She faced mounting pressure from both sides of the aisle to step down following the assassination attempt on former President Trump. Cheadle testified before Congress yesterday and provided few details about the event, which angered many lawmakers there. The list is in of the fittest cities in the United States. Arlington, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., that according to a ranking by the American College of Sports Medicine and the Anthem Foundation. Seattle, San Francisco, and Madison, Wisconsin follow just behind. The index ranks the 100 largest cities in the country using 33 indicators. At the bottom of the list, Memphis, Port St. Lucie, Florida, and Oklahoma City. Celine Dion will reportedly perform at the Olympics opening ceremony Friday in Paris. This according to both Variety and TMZ, saying the singer is set to give her first performance since 2019. Almost 2 years ago, she revealed she'd been diagnosed with stiff person syndrome. So this will be a big deal. Again, Celine Dion set to perform at the Olympics opening ceremony on Friday in Paris. The alligator swamp is a real thing in Fargo, Georgia. And now there's this video, a wild video, making the rounds. It was posted on social media over the weekend showing hundreds of alligators swarming a swamp in South Georgia. Creepy. It was posted on Facebook and shared widely, shows a motorboat entering the Okefenokee Swamp with alligators swimming and seeming to ignore this boat. The Okefenokee is the largest blackwater swamp in North America, and it holds some of the nation's biggest amphibian populations. It's a natural habitat for many threatened and endangered species. So, ooh, kind of creepy. I think, Tony, you have the video? Let's look at it. Look at all those gators. That is not a place you want to be jumping in. I would say even if the boat breaks down, that's not a place that I want my boat to break down. Look at them going crazy in there. Going for a swim, Tony? What do you think? No? No. Wow, look at that. Yeah, I could look at that for a while. That's crazy. This report is sponsored by you, which means we do count on you to support The Mark Thompson Show. Please find us online, themarkthompsonshow.com, themarkthompsonshow.com. That's where the Patreon link lives and the PayPal link lives. Those are the best ways to help support this show and keep it going. You saw David Cay Johnston on the show. We've had Gary Dietrich on the show this week. Political atmosphere changing in America, so important to keep this show going. And that is why we count on you. So again, themarkthompsonshow.com. All right, let's do a couple thank yous. By the way, I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show. Woohoo! Let's do a couple thank yous, Tony. because we have some people to say thank you very much, including Scott Rittenberg. Mark and all, remember, you can watch David Cay Johnston on the Rewind after the show. That you can, and I really hope you do. Thank you, Scott, for the $10 super sticker. And to Spencer as well, who saw the Biden announcement on Instagram, says it wasn't published on multiple platforms. It probably was. And thank you, Spencer, for the $5 super sticker. Thanks to everyone who contributes to the show. Tony, you had a comment? You had a remark? You're muted. For some reason, I can't hear you.
There I am.
There you go.
There you go.
What were you saying?
I don't remember. Oh, we also break out always. The David Cay Johnston segments are always also as a breakout video as well. So
absolutely,
you can
so check
consume
that
it
out.
either way.
Tony will make it very easy for you. That's right. All right, what do you say? Let's do some That's Rich. Is Tony ready with That's Rich? I think he is.
Who are they?
The top 1/10 of 1%.
What are they like?
These people are so posh and snobby, they're snotty.
That's Rich on the Mark Thompson Show.
Well, there is an LA billionaire selling his concrete mansion for $68 million. And get a load of this place. It kind of looks more like a mini Pentagon than it does an actual mansion. Pretty wild. This is right after they sold another house. The founder of Oakley Sunglasses and Sportswear, his name is James Gennard. Look at that place. Doesn't that look like a kind of more of like a little mini Pentagon? I think so.
It's very Oakley of the 90s. I should show you a picture of the headquarters. This is very Oakley of the time.
Oh, man. Yeah. That doesn't look like a warm, touchy-feely house to me at all.
Really, real fast, I think this was the Oakley headquarters in Fountain Valley.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was. They were probably built at the same time, is what I'm guessing.
Mr. Gennard just sold his Malibu estate for $210 million, which was the most expensive home ever sold in California to date. And now he's got this massive Beverly Hills concrete mansion for sale. It's at 410 Trousdale Place, and it's listed for $68 million. It's a 5-bedroom, 10-bath mansion, and they say it's really more of a monument to concrete. They were inspired by Stonehenge when they built this mansion, is what they were looking at, apparently. But it's got...
Maybe, but again, it's very Oakley of the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't make it up. They were looking at Stonehenge. Maybe that's why it's that shape. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah, I can see the center, yeah.
It has this weird-looking concrete pool and bedrooms with the most amazing... There's the pool. I mean, pretty nice looking, although it does feel kind of stark and cold inside. It's an 18,000 square foot fortress. They say it looks more like a Marvel supervillain mansion than it does anything else. It's got an exquisite wine cellar. It's got you see this infinity pool, and all the luxury trappings that you would expect, including an unobstructed view of the city, a guest suite, an elevator, a gym. I mean, he bought it in 2009 he first bought this property in 2009 for $20 million. And then he worked with architects to kind of flesh it out to what they call a heavily brutalist home with an industrial kitchen, a massive courtyard, and a bathtub that kind of looks like a hydraulic press. So I don't know. One of the things about the bathtub, it has a phrase in Elvish in it, which is kind of a throw to the Hobbit.
I love it.
Yeah. So this is an interesting place. You see
Oakley's
the writing on there?
Oakley's always been a weird company. Like Oakley's always been weird. That's what I've always loved about them. They just because they got their hit in the 80s. What they made originally motorcycle grips and goggles is how they all got started.
I knew this about the ski goggles, but I didn't know about the motorcycle grips.
Grips is where they got started before that.
Okay.
Was because I had friends who were motocross and BMX guys, and the Oakley stuff in the 80s, that's what everyone had because they were really good. So.
Well, this Elvish bathtub could be yours. So there you go. Thanks to Colleen for sending in this next one. And it's all about this mansion for sale in Tahoe, an incredibly rare lakefront Tahoe resort. It's a resort, not a mansion, listed for what they call an eye-popping price, $29.5 million. It doesn't seem like that much to me when you consider that this lakeshore resort is one of the most popular and beloved hotels on Lake Tahoe's North Shore. It was purchased by the Morilatos family in 1978. They named it after their Greek heritage, the Morilatos Lakeshore Resort. And today, their son runs the family business. It's located in this area right near Tahoe Vista, and it's known for its access to outdoor recreation. It includes 3 separate guest parcels, you can see there. A 3.2-acre lakefront property with 32-unit hotel on the property. Look at that. Incredible. 4-bedroom residence on the property. A 275-foot stretch of shoreline with shallow water, which is said to be ideal for swimming and recreation. Then you get the property across the street as well, and that has 2 additional parcels, a 5.9-acre mixed-use property with multiple family dwellings, many of them older cabins, where the Morilatos family has housed members of their workforce. They've got an RV park with hookups. They've got an old ice cream shop, the Morilatos Cable Car Ice Cream Parlor, which has been open for more than 25 years. There it is. And then behind the cabins is this last piece of property, and it's a 12-acre undeveloped forested lot. So this is a beautiful piece of property in Lake Tahoe. Almost unheard of that this type of property would come up for sale. Incredibly rare. And again, $29.5 million for this lakefront resort in Tahoe. All right, let's take a look at another one. I found this one on Facebook one day, and I mean, wow, it's called The Barn. Let's hope it's still for sale. Oh, I don't know. I don't think the barn is still for sale. I think somebody bought the barn. All right, let's move on to the Black Rock House. That's the last one on the list. This one is called the Once in a Generation Purchase. It's a Scottish cottage up for sale. It has one bit of a quirk, though, unfortunately. This is a beautiful property. I mean, incredible. Look at all that. And it's right on the Scottish coast. So, so pretty. They say this is a once in a lifetime as well, because it's this house that is right on the golf course where they hold one of the Royal Open golf tournament. And it's right there, right in the middle of the course. It's called the Black Rock House. The house itself isn't really much to speak of, but where it's located, these places don't come up for sale very often. So there it is, right in the middle of the golf course. And incredible, beautiful views. People just walking by, playing golf right there in the middle of the Scottish coast. So pretty. Look at all the holes right near the house. Yep, the Black Rock House. That is for sale as well. All right, it's time to wrap up this thing. That's rich.
More on how the other half lives.
These people aren't just rich, they're crazy rich.
Next time on The Mark Thompson Show.
Huge thank you to everyone who has contributed to the Mark Thompson Show today, and to you for spending time. Appreciate that. Tony, thank you for rallying all the pictures and doing everything else. Appreciate all the help.
Oh, no worries. I'm a little slow.
The music. It's coming.
I blame the computer. The internet's slow right now. That's what it is. That wasn't me at all.
Tomorrow on the show, another treat because John Rothman will be here. Really looking forward to hear his take on everything that has happened over the last week. In addition to John Rothman, we'll have Belinda Weymouth, who I had an email from yesterday talking about how different the candidates are. Kamala Harris, somebody who supports the environment. She'll talk about what we'll be getting with a Kamala Harris presidency. It'll be really interesting. So that's Belinda Weymouth with It's the Planet Stupid, along with John Rothman tomorrow right here on the Mark Thompson Show. Mark will be back for the first hour. It'll be me for the second hour once again. And I look forward to being with you one more time. But until we meet again, I hope you have a great afternoon. I'll meet you right now
for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Link is in the chat.
On the After Party Live, the link is in the chat, so join me there. Bye-bye. Thanks, Tony.
Bye.